Each mile stretched the distance between them and meat, the promise of flesh and fulfillment giving way to a cruel gauntlet of suffering. Thorny vines ensnared their withered limbs, raking through leathery skin with every frantic movement. Their once unrelenting gait slowed to a stagger, each step leaving behind bloody streaks on the jagged brambles that clung to them like nature's vengeful chains. Poisonous leaves brushed against their exposed flesh, blistering and itching in maddening waves. Their claws tore at the irritation, but it only grew worse, the raw, inflamed wounds oozing and weeping under the relentless assault. The heat was a suffocating force, draping over their skeletal forms like molten iron. Beads of sweat, an unfamiliar and loathsome phenomenon, coated their flesh as if their bodies themselves were trying to rid them of their cursed hunger. The air shimmered, thick and heavy, as if it taunting them with the memory of the cold they so desperately craved. Each breath burned, their mouths opening wider in a futile attempt to draw in the relief of crisp air that never came. Daylight stretched mercilessly across the sky, the sun an unblinking eye that seared their hollow sockets. The light pierced through the dense canopy, scattering shadows that danced and swayed, teasing their frazzled nerves. Their skin cracked and peeled under the unrelenting brightness, their bodies no longer shielded by the comforting embrace of darkness. And then the sound, a symphony of torment that never ceased. The high-pitched whine of mosquitoes filled their sensitive ears, their frequency grating and ending. Each buzz was a dagger, drilling into their skulls with unrelenting precision. Cherubic birds chirped in mocking harmonies, their songs bright and cheerful, a cruel contrast to despair. Crickets joined in with their incessant rasping, a rhythmic cacophony that reverberated in their bones. Frogs croaked in a guttural chorus, their vibrations pulsing through the sticky, oppressive air. Even the leaves seemed to whisper, rustling their contempt as they stumbled through the infernal din. Every sound, every sensation was magnified, stripping away their fleeting focus and leaving only raw nerves exposed. Hunger gnawed at their insides, but even that familiar agony felt distant under the onslaught of alien discomfort. The wilderness was alive, its hostility an unrelenting force that pushed back against their encroaching darkness. They began to falter. Their snarls turned to guttural whimpers, their spindly limbs quivering under the weight of suffering. The march southward slowed, each one trapped in a private hell of thorn and heat, of light and sound. For the first time, the thought of retreat gnawed at the edges of their minds, a bitter and unfamiliar emotion. Defeat. The treasures of their hunger lay just beyond the horizon, fields brimming with life, pulsing with warmth, and ripe for the taking. They could feel it, a distant vibration thrumming in their bones, calling to them like a beacon in the storm of their suffering. The taste of it was already in their minds, vivid and tantalizing, flesh to tear, marrow to savor, blood to quench the eternal thirst. It was everything they had ever craved, waiting just past the thorn-laden forest and the merciless sun.
But their steps faltered. For every promise that glittered ahead, the cost of reaching it pressed harder against their ravaged bodies. The thorns that shredded their skin were no longer obstacles, they were barriers woven of agony, demanding a toll they could not bear to pay. The sun bore down like a tyrant, peeling away their strength with every passing moment, leaving them raw and vulnerable. Their vision blurred, the imagined feast wavering in the heat like a cruel mirage. And the noise, it had burrowed deep into their minds, filling the spaces once reserved for hunger and desperation. The ceaseless buzzing of mosquitoes became a tormentor's chant, the chirping birds a mocking choir. Even their own thoughts were drowned in the relentless cacophony, splintering their resolve like brittle glass. Each step forward was a choice to endure more, to sacrifice more, and yet the promise of satiation seemed to retreat with every inch they gained. For the first time they felt the weight of their selfishness, not as a power to drive them, but as a shackle dragging them down. The hunger that had once given them purpose now felt like a curse, an endless loop of chasing and consuming, until nothing was left but ruin, even of themselves. They stopped, clawed feet sinking into the muck. The treasure was still there, just beyond the trees, but the vision had dulled. The cost was no longer just pain or suffering, it was the erosion of their very being. Each thorn that tore at their flesh stripped away something more profound, something nameless and irreplaceable. The cost of their hunger was too high, not in blood or agony, but in the impossibility of ever being whole again. The scent of the village reached them before the smoke.